Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, what can I say? This guy is becoming one of my favorites. Just the other day I posted a video reacting to Team FU Joe, or otherwise known as the older millennial on TikTok, Twitter, I believe Instagram too, not exactly sure if he's on YouTube, although I could probably confirm that. Yep, well there he is, the older millennial with 5.5k subscribers. I highly suggest that you subscribe to his YouTube channel, especially for the shorts content. But anyways, just to get back on track, we just released a video reacting to some of his content, and here we are again. The older millennial breaks the internet with another incredible breakdown, this time going so incredibly viral all over Twitter that even Elon Musk picks it up and retweets it. I have to say this guy is freaking awesome, and he's now shining a spotlight on a story that frankly kind of got shoved under the rug and stopped making national headlines, and that's the Trump case in Manhattan. You know, Democrats have been parroting this talking point that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He's not only a bad guy, but he's a literal criminal. He was found guilty of RAPE and SA. According to the leftoids, I mean, Trump's a big criminal. They've attempted to paint that picture, and Trump's defense, of course, since day one has been, it's all a witch hunt and these cases are clearly politically motivated. And of course, the left has responded, as they usually do, feigning outrage. Ooh, how dare you question the legal system? But as we're now learning, surprising to nobody with two working brain cells, Trump was exactly right. And he stated vehemently that the appeals court will make this right. And according to the latest update by the older millennial, that seems to be exactly what's happening. Let's call it total vindication. And if this keeps up and starts making headlines, another disastrous moment for the vote blue no matter who shills, another talking point out the frickin' window. Let's have a conversation about Donald Trump's continuing legal battles. Let me piggyback off of the older millennials' incredible reporting here. The leftoids on X are about to throw a frickin' hissy fit. Let's have a conversation about it. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So Elon Musk just reposted this, and that was roughly 2 hours ago as I'm recording this video, and it's already amassed 6.5 million views. Actually, I just refreshed and I correct myself, 6.6. Elon writes, excellent summary of the lawfare case against @real Donald Trump that was just crushed by a New York appellate. Incredibly sensible questions by appellate judges had me in stitches. American justice system for the W. Take a look at this.
So the Trump fraud case went before the appellate court this week, and by the time it was over, the closing arguments of the Democrat lawyers was just them begging to not get sanctioned. So look, many people aren't aware that the Trump fraud case went before the appeals court this week. And if you don't know how an appeals court works, there are 5 judges that sit in judgment for these cases. And they basically let the prosecution and the defense both lay out their cases. And their job is to consider whether or not the case was worth hearing in the first place. And it went so badly for the Democrat lawyers that by the end of it, their closing arguments was just them begging to not get sanctioned. So they argued a ton of different things throughout this case. But the biggest thing was the judges kept interrupting them. They kept saying, hold on. Can you find me one other time in history where the person who took the loan was able to call the bank that they took the loan from, and then that bank showed up and said, we weren't defrauded? And the lawyers spent like 2 hours trying to find one little instance where it happened. But then the judges said, okay, let's try something else. They said, hey, have you ever prosecuted someone for lying about the value of a property when it resulted in the entire loan being paid back with interest? And again, they gave them like 2 hours to try to explain their case, and they still couldn't produce a single case where that had happened. And then the judges said, hey, you know what? We'll give you another shot. They said, have you ever seen an attorney general prosecute a case where there was no damage to the public? There was no damage to the person you said was defrauded, and there was no actual malice committed by the person who took the loan. And then they took another like 6 hours on that one. And by the end of it, the judges were like, so you don't have any instance of that happening? And then by the time they were done, the judges were like, I don't even know if this is a case that should have been brought. And they said, look, y'all might need to be sanctioned for bringing this case in a malicious manner. One of the judges actually said, I have come to believe that since a case like this has never been brought in the history of the country, not only New York, that you have only brought this case because the person was running for president, which would put you afoul of not only multiple regulations regarding the law, but would also run you afoul of electioneering interference. In fact, at the end of it, when they got to give their closing arguments, instead of arguing the value of their case, instead of arguing that like we should have been able to bring this case because of X and Y and all this shit, they actually just said at the end, we hope that the court will take into account that lawyers need to be able to bring cases like this without the threat of sanction. Basically, they were saying, we hope that you decide that we're not going to get in trouble for bringing this bullshit case. That was what happened at the appellate court. So Trump, being found guilty of fraud and having to pay $500 some odd million, and the whole left celebrating about that, he's going to get all that money back because the appellate court was like, this is a bullshit case. The people he took the loan from literally came to court on his behalf and said, hey, we weren't defrauded. We knew he overvalued Mar-a-Lago. We took that into our calculations. And even if we had taken that into our calculations, and the value of Mar-a-Lago was part of 0.14. Like the president of Deutsche Bank said, you know why we gave him the loan? It had nothing to do with the value of Mar-a-Lago. It had to do with we'd given him 21 other loans. And he has paid back all 21 with interest. We were giving him the loan regardless of the value of anything. And that's where the appellate court was like, how do you have a case? Deutsche Bank literally said we were giving him the loan regardless. And that's when they started begging to not get sanctioned. So yeah, that's what happened with the Trump fraud case this week. Going really well for the Democrats.
And now look, I know some leftists are trying to discredit the older millennial, but I trust the guy's reporting. I've been watching him for a couple months at this point. He's usually right on the frickin' money. And a lot of what he's saying actually goes right in line with what's been reported by a lot of mainstream publications since late September. The Hill wrote, appeals panel signals skepticism over New York civil fraud case against Donald Trump. Essentially, the reports have been from multiple news sources that the appellate judges are kinda not buying it, and they're giving the state prosecutors a real hard time. This seems to go right in line with what the older millennial is suggesting and reporting here. Except one little change, one thing is different. It's getting a whole lot worse for the Democrat narrative, let's call it. It feels like yet again another I told you so moment. All of our reporting, all of our analysis, covering all the legal analysis coming from very reputable sources, seem to have hit the mark because now you have the appellate judges asking the exact same questions. Is there any precedence for bringing these charges? They took 6 hours to deliberate and couldn't come up with a single example of somebody being charged and found guilty for accepting a loan from a bank. There's not a single case of fraud where no damages were recorded. And just to make matters worse, apparently the president of Deutsche Bank came to testify and said we would have given him the money regardless. We didn't even really factor the value of Mar-a-Lago, and we had many other loans with President Trump, and he paid us all back plus interest in full. In other words, just a regular business transaction, not fraud. It's looking like Trump's gonna get a pretty good headline here, possibly coming soon. And it's also looking like we were right. The left is engaging in a lawfare campaign. It is a witch hunt. The case was bogus from the start, a manipulation of the law and the legal system, frankly a desecration of the American justice system, and probably worst part of all, you had all these leftoid shills, all these Democrat voters, vote blue no matter who people, who egged it on, celebrated it. Donald Trump's broke, he has to pay $500 million. They loved it. They loved the frickin' headline. But essentially, we might now have confirmation that what they were cheering for was blatant election interference, and like I just said, the desecration of the American legal system, at least within Democrat jurisdictions. They manipulated the law and politicized the justice system. Also, Alvin Bragg and Letitia James could get their moment in the spotlight, and of course, in an effort, try to interfere in the 2024 election. Absolutely disgraceful stuff. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. We'll probably do a follow-up story on this one as more information releases, but I had no issue covering this video from the older millennial simply because he's a trusted source. And you know, Elon Musk retweeting it and making it go mega viral obviously plays a role here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.